Hey guys, it's 258. Welcome back to Roseluck's Realization. Man, I don't remember too much other than Rose debating if she actually had a crush on this man, Clyde boy, but I don't know. Let's just hop right into it because my brain hurts and I'm not sure if I'm gonna be okay after this. Anyways, let's hop right into it. Chapter 4. Landrons, I don't know. Anyways, I think this is somebody's thought or flashback, but let's hop into it. There you go again. You can't even finish a sentence because you're too busy thinking about him. She scolded herself. Deep down, she knew she just needed to calm down, but for some reason, she couldn't. Okay, there's only one thing to do. A surefire way to find out whether or not you actually like him. Come on, you can do it, she thought. Her eternal struggle continuing. That was the last straw, and she knew she was going to do this no matter what. Damn it, Daisy was right, she confessed to herself, using the phrase she learned from Clyde. Roseluck took a deep breath and bellowed out, "Do you want to go to Princess Celestia's brunch with me?" Oh. Alright, then it's after that. It had been a couple of days since that line of questioning, and yet Roseluck had chosen to wait until the last minute to tell her sisters what had happened. Better to hear all of their gossiping near the end than to let it eat away at her for a few days, after all. Of course, that way of thinking had led her to the position she now found herself in, stuck in her living room, being peppered with questions by Daisy and Lily. Talk about a plan backfiring. So, what happened next? Yeah, come on, spill all the details. Roseluck rolled her eyes at her sister's behavior. The two were definitely holding up their end of the bargain when it came to pestering her nonstop about Clyde. But then gossiping was pretty fun, even if it was the gossipy, as it were. Even if she was the gossipy, as it were. Especially when it meant that she got to see her sisters in a bit of a tizzy. She shrugged. There's not much to tell, really. What do you mean there's not much to tell? Lily pressed, advancing on her sister. Roseluck didn't budge, and she gave a huff of dissatisfaction. Come on, you just asked the only human on the entire planet out on a date, and you won't tell us what he said? Roseluck scoffed, a light tinge of pink spreading across her cheeks. I didn't ask him on a date. I just asked if he wanted to go to the day's brunch with me. Daisy and Lily exchanged pensive looks, and Roseluck just knew just what was coming. Daisy's shrug all but confirmed it. Sounds like a date to me. I agree with Daisy on this one, Rose. It's not a date, Roseluck cried out, her voice cracking ever so slightly. Okay, she thought, this isn't turning out to be as fun as I thought it would. Then what is it? Lily asked, raising an eyebrow at her older sister's adamant denial. It's just two friends going to a brunch. Wait, Daisy spoke, grabbing her sister's attention. So you're saying that you asked him on a date? So you're saying that you asked him on a date as friends? Roseluck fell to her haunches, groaning. I never said that it was a date. Damn. Look at her trying to get the specifics out, bro. Like, calm down. Then just tell us what happened, Lily cried out, grabbing Roseluck by the shoulders and shaking her around. Roseluck was used to her sister being on the dramatic side, but this was just getting ridiculous. For the love of Celestia, tell us. Roseluck relented, sighing as her sister finally let her go. Fine, so Clyde had just come over to help me with some of my gardening. After we finished, he invited me out for some coffee at the coffee bean. From there, we've seen that. Oh my gosh, Roseluck, what a stupid thing to ask him, she cried out internally. Just look at the look he's giving you. He's disgusted, he's going to say no, and... Sure, Clyde replied. He's a tone shipper, taking a quick sip of his coffee. Continued. I was probably going to go with Rarity, but it would be fun to go... Okay, sure, Clyde replied, his tone shipper, taking a quick sip of his coffee. He continued. I was probably going to go with Rarity, but it would be fun to go somewhere with a friend and not have to wear fancy clothing. Right, friend, Roseluck chuckled nervously. Well, we'll be going as friends. Glad you're on the same page. Glad either didn't notice her nervousness or elected to ignore it. So is it like a black tie optional or what? Wait, what? Clyde either didn't notice her nervousness or elected to ignore it. So is it like a black tie optional or what? Oh, Princess Celestia doesn't care what any pony wears, Roseluck informed him. At least that's what she says every time she visits. Great, I hate wearing formal clothes. So Clyde laughed. They're always either too tight or too hot. Roseluck giggled. I've never actually worn a dress. Rarity is convinced that I'd be simply dazzling, darling. But I've never really seen the point since we don't usually wear clothes. Roseluck impersonated Rarity and quite poorly at Clyde's laughter. She felt her cheeks heat up. I guess that was a pretty bad impersonation, huh? Aside from the voice spot on, Clyde continues laughter. Just make sure she doesn't hear you. Last time I impersonated her, I was given quite the mouthful about being uncouth. Roseluck watched it with interest as Clyde finally managed a reel in his sides and take a sip of his coffee. When he was done, he lifted the mug up and looked in it. Darn, I'll be right back. So what happened after that? Lily asked, greeting Roseluck, smacked the hoof to her face, letting out another groan. Lily laughed, kidding. Roseluck sighed, but couldn't help but smile at her sister's kiddish behavior. But yeah, he said he'd love to go as friends. The way you said as friends, Daisy trailed off, looking at Roseluck pensively. This time around, her tone didn't come across teasing. Are you disappointed, Rosie? Roseluck didn't bother answering her question, and yet that gave her sisters all the answer they needed. Well, you're the one, fam. It's like Rose is the one putting all these different like you want to come have dinner, not romantically. You want to go to brunch as friends, and I'm just like, bro, like if Rosa is literally like in denial about it. Clyde had made a lot of mistakes in his lifetime, saying no to that girl who had asked him to prom, mistake, deciding to skip out on a college exam to get wasted with some friends, an even bigger mistake, even if he ended up passing the class, telling Rarity that he was going to celebrate his brunch with Roseluck. Well, that may have just been the biggest mistake of his life. Why did you say that? What? You should have told her. Yeah, you should have said, oh yeah, I'll be there. Why did you tell Rarity? Please don't tell me you said with Roseluck as well. Because my boy... Now, I feel like Rarity's going to interpret it as a date. And my head hurts for thinking of this. But I'm pretty sure my head hurts for a different matter. But bro, telling the mayor... that gives everyone their formal clothing, or in general their clothing, is like the worst thing to say to her. Like, bro, and right when you promise to be all, all casual and stuff to Rose as well. So I'm not sure if Rose is gonna appreciate this suit that Rarity made you wear. Or it's going to be awkward, and she's going to be like, oh, you look dazzling. Let's just go back into this. I'm a little bit annoyed with what Rarity's doing right now. Okay, biggest mistake of his life. Rarity, is this really necessary? The fashionista who just happened to be his boss chuckled heartily as questioned. Clyde, dearie, you know how important a person can be on a date? Rarity, I've told you a million times it's not a date. Clyde pinched the bridge of his nose, frustration seeping in, and as the alabaster unicorn went to work taking his measurements. She just wants to go as friends. Rarity quickly wrapped her measuring tape around his arms. Well, regardless, this does give me the opportunity to finally make you some positively dashing formal attire. I thought Princess Twilight didn't care what anyone wore. The sumptuous tittered. Well, it may be true that Princess Celestia pays no heed to the clothing a pony is wearing. There's still no shame in being fashionable. I hate you, Rarity. I hate Rarity for that. There is if you hate wearing dress clothes, Clyde muttered to his dismay. Rarity herself seemed to pay no heed to his complaints. There was a lot of things he could be doing, but no, he had to be stuck at Rarity's boutique, getting fitted for a suit he didn't even want to wear. It was prom all over again. Well, at least I won't be going alone this time. So you said yes to prom, but the girl didn't show up? Is that what you're saying? Clyde felt the measuring tape has already moved it down his legs, extending it from his waist to the floor. 32 inches. It seems you've grown about half an inch since I last measured you. Clyde looked at her strangely, but she didn't seem to notice as she went to measuring his waistline. That doesn't make sense. I haven't grown an inch in 3 years, and suddenly I'm sprouting again. Well, now that you mention it, it is a tad strange for a stallion, man, your age to be growing, Rarity noted. Floating over an ink and quill with her magic and writing down his measurements with ease. Perhaps you should let Twilight know. I'm sure she'll be able to find out why. Maybe, he muttered. Now that Rarity had finally taken the cursed measuring tape away, letting him once again move around freely. But for now, instead of focusing on if I'm suddenly growing, I gotta ask, are you sure you'll even be able to tailor a suit for me within the next 4 hours? 4 hours. Oh, Clyde, Ray giggled. You underestimate just how quickly I'll work for a friend. Bruh. This is just like a bruh moment. Just like, how dare you? Alright, Roseluck, do you know the first rule of winning your stallion? Roseluck tilted her head, confused literally at Lily. She had practically been forced into a chair by her sister, and now she was learning that there was rules to getting someone to like you. That was certainly news. That was certainly news to her. All the while, Daisy was watching the two curiously. No. You don't know the rules of the gas turning back to Daisy. She pointed a hoof right out of Roseluck's snout. Daisy, she doesn't know the rules. Daisy sounded a little startled by Lily's sudden outburst. I'm actually with Rosie on this one. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. That's it, Lily shouted. That's time to teach you two how to bag any stallion you want. Lily, I really think you should. Okay, Lily interrupted, cutting off Roseluck. You like Clyde, right? Roseluck sighed, yes. Well then, the first step to wooing your stallion is making your affection for him known. And just how do you expect Roseluck, a pony, to woo Clyde, a human, Daisy asked, letting that aside herself. And besides, she said herself that it was just a crush. Poof, that's what every pony that's in denial about being in love says, Lily giggled. Love? I don't love him, Lily, Roseluck blushed. I just think he's kind of cute. Either way, the youngest sister continued, there's more to the first step than just making your affection known. You have to be subtle about it. I don't know, fam. I feel like if the whole town has seen them just hanging out together, I feel like there's just gonna be like that assumption, you know? If the whole town knows that Clyde likes hanging out with Roseluck and Roseluck doesn't mind Clyde or likes actually being around Clyde, then you know that they are a couple. Like, they're just gonna assume that, like, it's not there yet, but they know that they're gonna be a couple or are a couple. It's either like that processing is like, if you see two, like, oh my god, it's kind of weird when, like, you live in high school, you see couples and they look exactly the same. I'm like, bro, what happened? I'm like, what happened? Who influenced you? It's kind of like, why? Anyways, let's go back to it. Why, Daisy deadpan? Being blunt is for stallions, Daisy. A true mare will give subtle hints to let the stallion of her affections know that she has her eyes set on them. But stallions are also really dense when it comes to getting signals like that, Daisy countered. If Roseluck really likes Clyde, she should just be honest with him about it. Don't I get a say in this? The mare in question asked. Her sisters looked at her, then back at each other before shrugging. That was her okay to begin talking again, and she was going to take advantage of it. I'm flattered that you two want to help me win over Clyde, really, but I don't want to win him over, at least not yet. I'm actually glad he said we'd be going as friends, because all I ever wanted was to find out whether or not I actually like him. So then, you don't want our help? Lily asked. Damn it, Roseluck cursed. She could sense the sadness in Lily's voice. That hadn't been her intention. Getting up from her seat, she wrapped a hoof around her sister's neck. I guess there's one thing I can think of that I might need help with. What is it? Daisy asked, finally stepping away from the corner of the room. Whatever it is, we'll do our best to help. Well, Roseluck scanned her eyes across the room as she trailed off. Her sisters were waiting patiently all the while. You both know what ponies are like where Clyde is from, right? Daisy and Lily both nodded. Woo! Thanks, Leslie. That'll make things a lot easier, she said internally. What you do to my girl? I'm sure that dating a pony is the last thing on his mind because of that. So, could you girls help me make myself more, I don't know, appealing, she asked. To Clyde, I mean. I'm not sure I follow, Daisy said. You want him to see you as a human? No, Roseluck shouted, blushing. If I do end up liking him, I want him to see me as more than just a pony. I want him to see me as a girl, not just some cute pony, but a beautiful girl. Could you two help with that? Boy, Roseluck, he literally called you a pretty girl that day he went to help you. He literally called you a pretty girl. I feel like he sees you as a girl. Like, is that not a thing? Like, did you not get that from that second interaction that we've seen? He's like, he literally called, like, well, it's fine if I'm helping a pretty girl or something bullshit like that. He literally called you pretty. You blushed for it too. Like, bro, I'm pretty sure that would be stuck in your head for a bit. You just brush it off. Like, what? Lily and Daisy looked to each other, nodded, then turned back to the sister. Well, we'd love to, Daisy explained, smiling wildly. Well, yeah, this'll, totally give us a chance to give you a makeover, Lily squeaked at that. Roseluck's pupils turned to pinpricks. We can do your hair and give you a hoof a cure, but there's only 6 hours until... Oh, we just have to let her borrow the dress you wore on your day a few months ago, Lily. Roseluck fell back on her haunches. Damn it. They both got stuck wearing formal wear. Those fucking jokesters. I love it. Rarity, I'm not wearing that. It's too small. No, it's Clyde found himself cut off yet again. Do you think the colors are strange? Well, you had to admit the colors were actually nice. Gray suits had always been something you thought looked pleasant to the eye, and the core color she'd picked for the tie was also nice. The colors are fine, Rarity. It's just too fancy. Rarity scoffed, rolling her eyes. Nonsense, Clyde. Why, you'll be the toast of the town. I don't want the town's attention if I was him. That's kind of my problem with it, Rarity, Clyde countered. While it was true that he'd definitely stick out in a suit as nice as one she made, that wasn't who he was. I don't like sticking out, especially at parties. Same. Rarity tilted her head. She didn't a confused look at Clyde. But you're the only human in Equestria. You stick out all the time, darling. Exactly my point. I wish not to. I don't want to stick out. That would be my point on this. Don't you think I'd rather, you know, not stick out all the time. Clyde pointed out the obvious. I like it here, I do, but being the only one of my species is difficult. I understand, Clyde. If you do not wish to wear the suit, then that is your choice, and I must respect it, Rarity smiled. However, I am almost certain that Roseluck will be dressed up for the occasion. That had Clyde's attention. He raised his eyebrow, Rarity. She had told me she hated wearing dresses, though. That very well may be the case, darling. Rarity paused for a moment, moving to put away some of her supplies. But have you taken her sisters into account? Daisy and Lily? Clyde was confused. What did they have to do with anything? They have to do with everything, Rarity replied rather loudly. Tell me, Clyde, do you have any brothers or sisters? I have an older sister. And did your older sister ever persuade you to do things that you wouldn't normally do? Rarity continued. Huh? Clyde's eyes widened, and now they mention it all the time. Now, how certain are you that Daisy and Lily are not doing just that with their sister? Alright, fine, I get it. Clyde sighed, his eyes rolling as he did. Rarity was right. He had met Daisy and Lily, and he knew that they were likely thinking the exact same thing Rarity had been. They think it's a date, and they're going to fix her up, right? Precisely, and how do you think poor Roseluck would feel if her date, Rarity paused, jiggling awkwardly, when she noticed the look Clyde was sending her. Her friend that she happens to be going to a social event with isn't dressed as nicely as she is. Like a fish out of water, he guessed. Maybe I should wear the suit then. Do whatever you wish, darling. If you need me, I'll be in the back room, Rarity informed her, and trotting off happily to the back of the room and leaving Clyde alone. Damn it. Oh, come on, that's a cute... I like how that's like their little couple thing. Like, damn it, just says like, oh, they're connected in a way. It's adorable. Alright. Last section. Roseluck stared at the mirror. Lily had held out in front of her. She looked different. She wasn't sure if it was good or different or just different. Her hair had been redone into a ponytail, which hung over her left shoulder. Well, she didn't want to hurt her sister's feelings. I like it? Oh, I just knew you would, Lily squealed, wrapping her forelegs around Roseluck and pulling the older mirror back in her chair, and I'm sure Clyde will too. Ponytails are all the rage right now. No offense, Lily, Daisy piped up from across the room. She paused for a moment, going back to work on Lily's dress. The girls, meaning Lily and Daisy, had decided that making a few modifications to the dress would help it look better on Rose. Roseluck watched with interest as she finished sewing something to front of the dress and turned her head back. But I don't think Clyde is very familiar with the fashion trends of Equestria. What do you know? What do you know, Lily giggled. All that matters is that he's going to think Roseluck is the cutest little pony ever. Roseluck could feel her cheeks heating up and looked back into Lily's self-held mirror. Now that Lily mentioned it, she did look pretty nice. She was about to voice her sentiments when she heard Daisy shout out, "Finally, it's finished!" She was quick to hop out of her chair and trot over to Daisy, ready to see just what her older sister was so excited about. Daisy whirled around, holding the dress up in her hooves. Roseluck stared at it, a confused expression wandering onto her face. I don't get it. There's nothing different about... Roseluck paused, suddenly catching on to what Daisy had done. Then on the front end of the dress was a tiny little patch that looked just like your cutie mark, sewn right into the fabric. It wasn't a perfect replica, but that wasn't what mattered. Wow, it looks great, she shouted, pulling Daisy into a hug. But where did you even learn to do this stuff? Remember that time I went over to Rarity's to get a few buttons replaced? Daisy professed as Roseluck let go of her and simply waited for her to continue. Daisy blushed a bit under her sister's gaze to continue. Nonetheless, she taught me how to do minor repairs and dress work like this while I was there. So Rarity knew there was a little seamstress in the making there. Okay. Well, I'm glad she did. I just hope dresses aren't as comfortable as I'm glad she did. I just hope dresses aren't as uncomfortable as always imagined. Rosa giggled so cutely. Trust me, you'll forget about that once you're with Clyde, Lily interjected, trotting up to the pair. Speaking of, how much longer until the brunch, Daisy? About an hour, Daisy replied. But if you want some good seats right near the princess, we should go ahead and leave now. Roseluck smiled. If her sister cared this much about making her date with Clyde go well, then she wouldn't complain. The end. All I'm saying is, I'm pretty sure from Clyde's perspective, he hasn't met Celestia yet, and I'm pretty sure Celestia would want to speak with him. So I'm pretty sure I'm not sure about the sisters, but I'm sure Rose should just get that automatic seat that's next to him, right? That's in my opinion. I feel like that's how you should go. Anyways, author's note. I apologize for this taking so long. I had originally written a much longer part about Celestia's brunch, but then I realized I had to write an intro to it. I don't think I'll ever be fully satisfied with how this chapter turned out, so this is the best it's gonna get. Big stuff is going to happen in the next chapter, though, which will itself be big. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this. And that's the author's note. And I hope we have a conversation with Celestia, because I feel like that would be an interesting thing to meet the god of the land, I guess. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching and listening. Thank you guys do, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. I'm so broken here, yeah. I'm an outcast. No, I never fit in, but I outlast all these money pop fiends with the color pop dreams. Rather come
up on my own, cause they out fast, yeah. I'm an outcast,